Michigan State University Tollgate Farm. We're here at a special place called the Sugar Shack. Today we'll be exploring the present-day process of making maple syrup from the sap we collect from our maple trees. At Tollgate, we like to think like scientists and solve mysteries. Today our mystery is, how exactly does maple sap become maple syrup? You'll meet Tollgate Farm Manager Roy Prentice as he shares just how the sap we collect from our maple trees becomes maple syrup.
Hi, I'm Roy Prentice. I'm the farm manager of the Michigan State University Tollgate Education Center and Farm. We're located in Novi, Michigan. Let's go to the Sugar Shack now and see how we get from the sap to the syrup. So when the sap comes out of the woods, we bring it from the woods in these big tanks, and then with a pump, we pump it from the tanks on the back of the Bobcat up into a tank that is a stainless steel tank that is elevated, and so by gravity, the sap can then flow from the stainless steel tank down into the evaporator, which is in the Sugar Shack. So we really kind of run things just with gravity downhill, and it just flows where we want it to. All right, let's go see what the Sugar Shack's got to do. Okay, so this is the Sugar Shack, and this is our evaporator, and it's called an evaporator wherever it is in any Sugar Shack, because what you're doing is you're evaporating. You're evaporating the water, and you're concentrating the sugars in the system. We make maple syrup in the northeast part of North America, so it's a local product. The majority is made in Canada, but we make quite a bit in the northern United States also. So you can see this line, the sap is coming in. There's a float tank that as we evaporate water off the system, the float goes down as the level of sap goes down, and it automatically feeds more sap into the system. We have this unit on top that's called a steam away. It's kind of it's a preheater, but also a lot of evaporation happens in addition to just heating up the sap. And then the sap flows from this unit. There's actually another pan underneath here that is not flat on the bottom. The pan underneath is called a flue pan, and it actually has probably 6-inch indentations that go down into the firebox that the sap can get into, and so your pan has got a lot more surface area than just a flat pan would, because we're all about trying to get heat from the fire onto the sap, and the more surface area you have, the greater you can have your heat exchange. So after it spends some time in the flue pan, it comes out into the syrup pan. And it's very cool. You can see the syrup comes in, it goes back and forth through these baffles all the way to where we pull it off, which is over there. And you can probably even see that the syrup, as it's traveling from sap to syrup, is lighter, a little darker, and then it's darkest when it's near to syrup and ready to be pulled off. We know that it's syrup primarily because we look at the temperature dial here. And syrup boils at 7 degrees higher than the boiling point of water. And so the 0 on this temperature gauge is the boiling point of water, and there's a big tick mark at 7. And when we hit that 7, then we know that the liquid right by the temperature probe is syrup, or nearly syrup. So in practice, we let it run to a little bit beyond the 7. We open the valve, we start pulling the syrup off, and then we let it kind of run a little bit below the 7, and then so on average it's syrup. We have an additional testing protocol that as it comes off, we will pour our finished syrup into this cup, and then this measures the density of the syrup, the amount of sugar that's in the liquid, and when it floats, so that it floats with the top of the liquid right on this line, we know it really is syrup. So that's our final test. The temperature gets us real close, that gets us right on. So we test that, we put it in syrup, it gets put into containers. The 5-gallon containers get taken in, we put it through a filtration process, and then we bottle it. So that's it. Why don't you come around here, and we'll just take a look at how we're heating the whole unit. You can see what's happening in here. So a lot of different a lot of different operations use different things to heat up the syrup. We use wood. You can see our firebox, but we could use natural gas or fuel oil or something else. But we use wood. So that's what we've got going on.
So we asked Farmer Roy to tell us a little bit about a special filter Tollgate uses to help us make maple syrup. An RO machine can remove up to 75% of the water from sap, taking sap with 2% sugar content, removing water to raise the sugar content to 8%. We boil the sap in the evaporator to remove more of the water then until the sugar content becomes 66%. This is maple syrup. After the sap is concentrated in an RO machine, it takes 10 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup in the evaporator. We know this is quite an improvement over using raw sap, which takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. This means using an RO filter saves lots of evaporator time and lots of firewood. Osmosis is the process by which water moves through a membrane toward a higher concentration of dissolved material. In sap, this dissolved material is sugar. The RO machine uses reverse osmosis as high pressure forces water through a membrane away from the higher concentrations of sugar. The sugar molecules are too large to follow the water through the membrane. The sugar that can't travel through the membrane becomes more and more concentrated until that sugar content reaches 8%. Water that's forced through the membrane is very pure. If we start with 40 gallons of sap and process the sap with an RO machine and the evaporator, we get 30 gallons of very pure water, 9 gallons of steam, and 1 gallon of syrup. So what do we do with all of the super clean water? That water is very useful and is used to wash the membrane, keeping it working as efficiently as possible. There's even a special soap to help clean the RO.
Coming today. Thanks for viewing our maple syrup operation. We're very excited about it. We make about 100 gallons a year or more, and it's all run by a very dedicated group of volunteers. And on top of the work that's being done on the property, we also do a number of field trips and other education events. And it's a great system, and always happy to show it off.
So thank you for joining us today at Michigan State University Tollgate Farm to explore the special process of how we make one of Michigan's sweetest treats, maple syrup.